Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the rod shop. Today we're going to start building the A2 frog rod, so stick around. Okay, so the A2 frog rod recipe I gave you guys a couple days ago. This is the 38687 NFC 736-1 Delta LMX blank. It's a 7.3 heavy power fast action rod. It's a good multi-purpose rod, but this one specifically is going for a frog rod for me. I've got all my components here. Couple things we need to do to get started. This is going to be a relatively fast build with the lightweight components and the fast setting epoxies. This is not going to take that long to build it. I probably got maybe 4 hours in total build time, but it's going to take about 4 days because I've got some intense epoxy work I want to do to really kind of spice it up. So let's get started. First thing we need to do is we need to spline this blank. So let's put a bit of masking tape way ahead of the reel seat. I got my pencil and let's spline it. Okay, that's the first. Okay, we got our spline. That gives us trigger seat alignment. Now, first thing I want to do is I want to mix up a little bit of epoxy. I'm going to use liquid 10-minute stuff because we need to glue this insert into the reel seat and get it to start with it set where we're gluing up the rest of the handle. But before I do that, I need to scratch it just a bit, which gives me, with exposing what I need to expose, I've only got about that much to scratch. So we'll just take a sponge sandpaper piece here and we're just gonna scuff it just a bit just to give this glue something else to adhere to. Alright, we'll wipe that down with a bit of alcohol and get the dust off of it. You can see it's scratched, the shine is gone, so we've got something for the glue to adhere to. I'm going to go ahead and pull this hood and locking nut off. Mix up just a tiny bit of epoxy here. This is the 5-minute Pro Glue. So a little bit there, don't need much. All I'm doing with this is gluing the insert into the reel seat. And I've got equal amounts. Let's mix it up. Alright, so let's now just coat the scratched part of the insert. This will get locked in from the backside with the paste when we glue the reel seat to the blank, but this just locks up the front. So make sure we get good adhesion. Okay, now I'm going to do a quick slide it in. push it in just enough to get the rear opening covered. And I can go a little further in. There we go. Now we're going to clean the excess glue off of this, especially on the threads. And just inside the rear seat. Don't have a lot of extra residue there. Alright, we'll set that to the side and let it cure while we start reaming the grips. First grip I want to do here is the butt grip. And I got a little sticky on my hands, and I do not want to transfer that to the carbon fiber reel seat, so I'm going to clean my hands up real quick. I'll get ready to ream. My bucket and my drill. I'll start with my medium extreme reamer. Now this foam is so easy to ream. You really don't even need a power reamer, but I'm going to use it anyway, just to speed it up. I'm going to go ahead and ream this rear grip while I've got this medium on. Alright, we'll switch reamer sizes and go to the large. Let's see how close we are on the blank. Not even close, I don't think. Nope. Yeah, this is going to get where there's not a lot of this grip left over on this blank. I need just a hair more, which means I'm going to need to go to my extra large extreme reamer. But in the meantime, I'm going to partially ream this one. That should be about right. Let's go with the extra large. Now when you're reaming these are so soft, and I've actually egged this just a hair. That side there is just a little thicker than that side, so I'm going to very carefully try to re-round this, just with a little more tension on that thicker side. I think that's going to do it. I got it rounded back out pretty close. Yep, just a little over, which is fine. Let's check my reel seat. That's going to be about right. For my trigger length, yep, that's just a hair over, which is fine. We have plenty of room for epoxy. That's going to wind up about right there. Okay, reaming is done. I'll clean up the reaming mess, and then we'll be back to start the glue up process. So y'all stick around. Okay, got the reamers put away. I'll do a little cleanup of my pieces here just to get some of the dust down. We'll do a quick layout for real seat location and rear grip location. So I've got my witness marks here on my stand. There's my butt. I want 11.5 trigger, which is right there. That puts the rear grip at 7.5. I'm gonna mark it with some masking tape. Now this is my glue up location for my rear grip now. And I'm going to fold a little tag because I would peel this off as I'm gluing. Alright, next thing we need to do is do some tape arbors. I got a little heavy on the butt of the butt grip, so we're going to need to build some tape arbors in here. So let's start with this one in the rear. Come in just a bit from the end. That's about perfect. Front's just a hair. We'll do about 2 wraps here to tighten the front up. Could use maybe another wrap. There we go. Okay, that one's all set now. This is going to need just a bit. Maybe 2 wraps here. About 1 wrap in the back. Now that's nice and snug. Okay, now it's time for some epoxy paste. So, 2 popsicle sticks, my plate, some paste. Not gonna need much. These fit pretty tight. Not quite as tight as this lid, but oh, there we go. Alright, we get a little bit of the hardener here. Same amount of resin. Okie dokie. Mix them up to get a uniform color. Okay, now let's glue up the rear grip first. Just coating my arbors very heavy. A little bit in front of the arbor so it fills in. That tape does not come all the way to the edge of the butt grip. Get it very wet here. Alright, let's spin it. That's where it lives. Clean up this excess paste. Now I'm not going to balance or put the butt cap on yet. There's a reason for that, and you'll see it when we start the epoxy work. But I need access to the inside of the blank, be able to hold this on the dryer properly with this style of butt cap. Alright, that's cleaned up. Get mounted back flush again. Move to the rear grip section. Same thing, we're going to coat these arbors very heavy, especially in front of it. Okay, time to spin the rear grip on. And before I push it into the final position, I'm going to take most of that epoxy off. Okay, got that cleaned up pretty well. Now we're going to push it back to its final position. So clean up this time with a little bit of alcohol. Get the final residue off of the grip more than anything else, because I've got the tape on the blank, and now that we've got it pretty well clean, I'm just going to peel this tape off. And we'll do one final touch up without sliding it forward or to the rear, just to make sure we don't move it. Now we're going to let that sit for a few. Now real time, we have been at this for 19 minutes. Building rods is not necessarily a super time consuming affair as long as you're prepared, have your tools handy, and have a plan. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a quick 10-minute break just to let these grips set. This is cured. The insert is now cured inside of that reel seat, the Toray, Alps Toray reel seat. We'll give it 10 minutes. We'll come back, we'll mix up some more epoxy paste. We'll build arbors for the reel seat and get the reel seat mounted. And then we'll see how much more we're going to try to get done today. So, y'all stick around. Okay, now we're back. It's been about 10 minutes. Grips are just a smidge loose still. So I'm going to mark with tape again. This rear grip, I just don't want it to slide. I'm going to get all of the little bit of residue that was still left on it is now off. Let me get the roll of tape. All I want to do is give myself a reference point here. Okay, now we need to build. Ooh, maybe we don't. That's something I did not check, fellas. So we're going to slide this up just a hair. Okay, well, change of plans. So what we're going to do, I was not paying attention to the diameter of the blank in the reel seat area because I didn't check, wasn't careful. This insert diameter will only get back this far. So I don't know what that's going to do with my trigger length. Let's check it and see. Yeah, that's at a 12. It's not horrible. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to do some of this epoxy work before I glue up the reel seat. And the reason I'm going to do that is instead of having to protect the reel seat from excess epoxy, it's going to be a lot easier to do the epoxy work that I want to do on these grips. And then once the epoxy sets, then I'll add the reel seat. So, well, you know what? I changed my mind. We may just tape the epoxy off. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and glue this up because I want to do similar epoxy work in front of the reel seat, and I want to match my colors, and I'm probably going to wind up blending custom colors. So this needs no arbor. We're just going to mix up some paste and glue it in place. Yep, that's not good anymore. Let's mix up another batch real quick. So guys, I'm building this real time with you guys. We are now about 24 minutes in. No, we're now about 29 minutes into the build from the very beginning. Having to make a change on the fly, not a big deal. I'm going to mix up just a little bit more of my paste epoxy to get this reel seat glued in place. We'll let that cure, then we'll get it flipped around and put on the wrapper for the epoxy work, which is coming next. And that epoxy is going to start in about 10 minutes. So alright, don't need much, but I need some fresh because that's already starting to set a little much there. Yeah, it's not good enough. And this is really just gonna wet the blank. There's gonna be like one molecule of epoxy between the insert and the blank. So let's get this on here and wet. Now you do have a bit of a cavity in the very back of the reel seat. Not a huge one, but we want to make sure we've got enough epoxy to fill it, even though we're wind up scraping almost all of this epoxy back off. Alright, where we're at. You come just a little more forward with that epoxy. Okie dokie. Now let's start spinning it up on the blank. And now we just have to make sure we have our trigger lined up on our spine. And that looks good. we are epoxied up. We pack just a little bit in on the front of the reel seat here. Make sure we got good solid contact on the front. Okay, let's get that cleaned off. One final cleaning. Make sure you got all the epoxy out of the threads for the reel seat. Check your trigger one more time just to be certain. And there we go. We had a handle glued up in 34 minutes from scratch. Now we'll let that cure for a bit. Alright, we'll let that cure for about 10-15 minutes, and then we'll come back and get her checked up in the power wrapper and start the first coat of epoxy with the marbling. So just stick around.